All right, welcome to HIPcast, and we are excited today to have Dr. Shannon Harris with us, and it's going to be fun because we have two Shannons and a Seth. It is the team of S's, Triple S podcast here.
That's right.
And it's Shannon with an O, and then Shannon with an A, and then Seth with an E. I don't have a good one there, but we'll go with that. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to read Dr. Shannon Harris's bio, and then we're going to get into a fun conversation. I'm excited about this. So welcome, Dr. Harris. I should welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And all right. So Dr. Shannon Harris serves as an assistant professor in the Bachelor of Science in Health Information Management program at the University of Arizona Global Campus. She is an RHIA and has over 15 years experience in the HIM profession. She holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Health Services with concentration in Healthcare Administration from Walden University, an MBA with concentration in Healthcare Management from the University of Phoenix, and a Bachelor of Science in Health Information Management from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. All right, I can handle UAB. I can't handle the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa as a Tennessee guy. So
really? I thought you were about to say Roll Tide. Oh my gosh.
I can't say that. Dr. Harris began working.
Sorry. Can I just say, Dr. Harris, we don't allow cursing on our show.
Okay. Fans.
No Barners.
We're a couple East Tennesseans, so we live in the orange.
Okay, gotcha.
So Dr. Harris began working in the HIM field part-time while completing her BS HIM program as a student cancer registrar in HIM Tech. Immediately after graduation, she became a full-time coder in the outpatient ophthalmology center. Cannot believe I read that correctly with with this East Tennessee accent. Dr. Harris later focused on healthcare management by becoming a project manager for a patient identity consulting company, which further developed her research interests. Dr. Harris also has experience in healthcare operations, ROI, account management. She is a rock star in the HIM industry. She's a member of of AHIMA, the Alabama Association, as well, where she also serves as first-year director of the 23 to 24 executive board. So we're big fans of component state associations.
Yes.
She has published articles in the Journal of AHIMA, Perspectives of AHIMA, and the Access Management Journal for the National Association for Healthcare Access Management. She also has conducted presentations at the state and local HIM professional associations. She recently presented her dissertation research at Walden University's College of Human Management and Potential Virtual Symposium. Dr. Harris is focused on teaching, continuing research, and educating HI professionals through future presentations and publications. And this is a fun part because I like the outside of the career. Dr. Harris lives in Birmingham, Alabama. I do like Dreamland barbecue down there with her husband and 5-year-old son. In her free time, she enjoys gaming, shopping, and spa treatments, which is something that I do not have an intention of ever doing as a spa treatment. I got beat up by some lady one time. And she went into the room. Once you get to a certain age, random things just happen, right? So I sneezed one time and was paralyzed for 2 weeks. And my wife was like, go to get a massage. They'll work whatever the muscle is out. And this lady walks in, and she was bigger than me. And I thought, she's going to whip me. And I'm sitting in the chair dressed like this. And she said, well, I need you on the table. I need you to undress to your comfort level. And I'm like, honey, I'm at my comfort level from an undressing perspective, and I'm not getting on your table. So I was just not into that environment. But that's a side story.
Most men aren't. And I remember years ago, me and my stepdaughter got a gift card for my husband to get a pedicure. Never again. Never again.
It is wasted on us.
Never again. Never again.
Oh my goodness. Well, welcome to the show, Dr. Harris. Just for everyone's knowledge, Dr. Harris has been incredibly patient. We've had some technical issues and some scheduling conflicts. So this is actually, I think third or fourth attempt to get a conversation with Dr. Harris. So we appreciate you and your patience for still coming on. So thank you for doing that.
I was beginning to think you guys didn't want to talk to me. So
We definitely do. We definitely do. You're a lifelong learner, and we're going to spend today talking about kind of what led you into continuing your education and why you love teaching, and what the doctoral program has done for you as an HI professional, as a health information professional, and then talk about your transition into academia, kind of how that did. And then one thing that I would really like to get to at the end, if we still have some time, I'd just like to know like the title of your dissertation and what the topic was, but we'll save that for later. So we appreciate you being here to share your journey. The goal today, I hope, is to inspire health information professionals or those considering health information as a profession to get involved, to become educated in health information in the space, but also to continue lifelong learning, formal or informal. So that's where we are. We appreciate you joining, Dr. Harris.
thank you again so much. I'm
So-
really excited.
One of our favorite questions that we ask HI professionals as we get to speak with folks is, tell us about your HI journey. How in the world did you find this profession?
It's crazy because when I started at UAB so many years ago, I'm not going to say the year, I came with the intent of going to nursing school. I mean, that was my whole reason for wanting to go to UAB, because of their medical and health sciences reputation. And when I got there and started taking some of the sciences, those were some really difficult classes, chemistry and AP. I lost my focus. You have to study a lot. There were labs that you had to go to. And so
Yes.
at some point I knew that, my grades weren't going to allow me to get into UAB's nursing school. I just, was honest with myself and like, this is not going to happen. And I went through several different majors, not really realizing that healthcare was still my passion. And I still wanted to remain in there some type of way. And my advisor asked me, well, have you ever heard of health information management? I was like, no. And she started explaining to me, what all you do. I'm like, okay, I would like to do this. So, that's how it all started. So I always like to read up on everything and, just start trying to see, what all it entailed. And so I started working in some student positions as a cancer registrar while I was in school. I was really interested in the cancer registry, at that point. So I was a cancer registrar going through school, and I immediately started working as a HIM tech at one of the local hospitals. And that's kind of what started me there. And so when I graduated, I actually, one of the HIM directors at one of the hospitals, she was also a UAB alum as well. And they had this position open for a coding position. But I hadn't taken my RHIA yet. But she was like, we're going to hire you. I mean, you're a new graduate. I think you'd be perfect for this coding position. And I'm like, okay, great. But, ultimately, in the back of my mind, I knew I didn't want to code forever, but it was a great foot in the door, getting, just learning how to code. I think that's a skill, we all should know how to do as HIM professionals, although I don't know how to do it anymore because it's been over 10 years.
Seth never did, I think, only to pass the exam.
I made it past the exam. That's about it.
But, I started doing that, started meeting other HIM professionals. I started working on my master's, while I was a coder. And then I was able to get into patient identity management. I started off as a project supervisor because ultimately I knew I wanted to get into management. So I started traveling. We started going to these different hospitals, cleaning up their MPI databases. So that was really interesting. And just being able to travel was really great until I got married and I couldn't do it anymore. I had a family, but it was good, while just being able to do that work and still, travel across the country. So that's how I got into it. And then I've had a lot of experience, in the industry. I did work briefly in the traditional HIM department. Me personally, I don't like it. I loved working on the vendor side, being able to connect with the HIM department, not actually working within the department, but building the relationships and helping them improve their operations is what I enjoy the most.
Something that stood out there to me was what I always tell students is get your foot in the door. And you started as a registrar, you started as an HIM tech. Then once you finished, you went to a coding position, an entry-level coding position. But that started to expose you to the bigger function of health information to give you different routes. You know, if you're a student out there listening to this, Dr. Harris did not start as the director of HIM. Dr. Harris didn't start as the chief health information officer. Start at the ground floor, and you got to work your way up. I think that's a lot of our stories, and I think that's an important call out for the young folks listening to this.
And a lot of students that I have, worked with in academia, I think a lot of them have the mentality of thinking when they get these degrees, they're automatically supposed to go into this big role. And especially with coding is one of those more difficult job specialties within HIM, which may be a little bit more challenging to get into. But the whole point is even if you don't start off in coding, you can start somewhere and then move up eventually once you get some experience, medical record experience.
That's right.
A lot of people don't understand that, but it's really important to network and do all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I loved about how you talked about your journey. One thing that stood out to me just now is you said I was honest with myself about not having the grades, right? I mean, that's huge. First of all, UAB is a fantastic school. I actually considered a doctorate there, but found a different one that kind of aligned with my goals better. But you are honest with yourself. And I think that that's important for our students and young professionals, and even, to be honest, our seasoned professionals, because our industry has changed so much. You mentioned that you spent some time in a traditional HIM role. Well, we no longer, in my opinion, I don't think we have a traditional HIM role, because it is so broad, and health data, health information lives everywhere, that I think we should be everywhere that data is. So I understand the premise of traditional role being in a medical records or health information department in a hospital, but we are so far past that. So, you know what I mean? Like health information is so broad now, but being honest with yourself about a few things can help you on your journey, right? Like, for me, one of the hardest things for me to learn, because I like to think I know everything, was to be honest with myself that I don't know everything, right? And I need other people who are skilled. And I've seen our profession get so intense with the generation of new data coming in, and also new regulations and new systems, new technology. We cannot possibly know everything. So we are so fortunate in this profession to have people who are skilled in revenue cycle, or in patient identification and matching, or in release of information, or in operations. And I have to lean on these folks all the time, because I can't know everything. I wish I could. But maybe I don't, because to increase knowledge is to increase sorrow, right? So maybe I don't wish I knew everything. Plus, that's
a good statement.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a Tennesseeism on there on learning, because yours sounded very elegant, but the way I would say it is the brain can only absorb what the butt can endure.
That's right. That's true. Sitting in the seat to learn, you can only take in what you're willing to be present for, right?
That's
right. I
right.
appreciate for the journey, for not only for students or young professionals, but also for the seasoned professionals listening to Dr. Harris today. Be honest with yourself about where you are, about where you want to be in your career, and about what you don't know. Do you want to learn it, or do you want to collaborate with someone else that knows it and grow your network? So being honest with yourself, that's a big thing. And also, I thought it was interesting you started in nursing. I think AHIMA should maybe do a poll. How many of you started as a nursing student?
We have heard that quite a bit.
Seth did too. Didn't you start in nursing also?
No, I was in finance. I was going into banking and was like, I'm going to fight all these people for the same cubicle.
Yeah. It would be terrible. That'd be terrible. So I think AHIMA should do that for sure. So Dr. Harris, tell us what led you or inspired you to pursue your doctoral degree as a health information professional, and just, I think all three of our stories would be different there. Seth's would be peer pressure because I wouldn't shut up and leave him alone. But tell us your story. Why did you choose a doctorate?
So when I completed my master's was in business administration. So it kind of went along with my management thing that I wanted to do in my career. But I don't know, I've just always been ambitious. And I said, I would love to pursue a doctorate, and I start talking to the admissions advisor. I went to University of Phoenix for my master's, and I loved the master's program, great program. So I actually started my doctorate at University of Phoenix. However, I just got really overwhelmed with it. I was just at the point in my life where I was busy with work and a lot of the expectations they had of the doctoral students. And this is probably everywhere. It's just you have to have the mindset. It just was too overwhelming for me. So I made the decision to just stop. Well, I took a break. You know what they say about how you take a break? Sometimes it's hard for you to come back. And my husband said, why did you stop? I'm like, it was just so overwhelming. I didn't want to do it anymore, honestly. I was like, but you took class. I mean, you need to go back and finish it. Like, I feel like I need to start at another university. I just start over. Because I really didn't like how that program was lined out for me personally. So I started looking at other universities, and another colleague had told me about Walden. So I started looking at Walden, and I really liked how their program was laid out, and they had a PhD program. I was previously working on a DHA, but they had a PhD program, and I heard a lot of people say, well, the PhD is really hard. It's like, yes, but okay. I think I want to try it. I think I want to try it anyway. So that's how I got started. And I'm really embarrassed to say that I was in this program for 7 years because it was difficult. Honestly, it was one of the hardest things ever. Having a family. I had my son in 2018. So being pregnant and trying to write a dissertation was really hard. He got sick in 2019, and we were in the hospital at Children's Hospital for about 2 weeks with him. And then right after that, COVID came. And it was just like things just hitting me, left and right. I did not think I was going to finish, but I had to think about why I wanted to do this to begin with, to expand the research that's in HIM. There's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of professionals out there actually conducting research to improve the knowledge that we have to manage the data in these healthcare organizations. And that was one reason why I wanted to do this. And it was just so bittersweet. I finally finished last year. And it almost made me cry. I'm trying not to tear up now, but it's just one of those things where you just don't know if you're going to finish. At least it was for me. It was just super difficult, but very rewarding, because I hope to be an inspiration to anybody listening to this who might be aspiring to complete a doctoral degree. It is possible. You just have to stay at it, and having the support system was just wonderful. Somebody that shares your goals and your dreams with you, it just makes it like even more easier to accomplish.
That's awesome. Well, I'm inspired by your persistence, Dr. Harris. I'm so inspired by your persistence. That's amazing.
And I already know some people that I'm going to send this to say, hey, you need to listen to this, because I've got one HI professional in mind that Shannon knows that I'm going to send it to her.
We keep on.
You need
Shannon
to go listen to Dr. Harris because listen to her story of perseverance.
Yeah. And then I started teaching in 2019 while I was completing the program. So the connections I was making with my students, that was kind of helped me to decide to keep going with it, because I would love to do this full time and just be able to connect even more with students. It's different doing it from a part-time perspective, but being able to really connect with them, might be, because at first I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but once I started teaching, it kind of started becoming more clear as to what path I wanted to move into.
Let's dive into that. So what does that transition look like from a traditional, even though we've kind of shot down the idea of a traditional HIM role, but
You're welcome.
and then just moving into like academia, because I think a lot of people want to do that or are interested in doing that. I've been an adjunct for many years. I don't know that I could do it full time. I'm glad there are people that have that passion, but I'm not quite sure I'm there. But I'm curious of that transition.
Yeah, so it was different because, there are a lot of, industry is more about, well, let me put it this way. The role that I was in before I transitioned into academia, we were more on outcomes, revenue, relation, and from an extent, those things are still the same in education. It's just that as a professor, you're not really worried about revenue. You're worried about the student success, and you're worried about what they are learning from your course. So I had to get out of that mindset of outcomes, business, into higher education, success,
Interesting.
and just helping others meet their educational goals. Because I was an account manager in the industry, so I was focused on revenue, action plans, all that, from the business perspective. So now it's just education and helping those meet their goals, because like Shannon said earlier, education has changed. And the majority of people that, we're teaching now in universities are adult learners, people that are coming back to school after 20 plus years, or, going to get a degree so they can get promotions. So, that is my teaching philosophy, helping adult learners get where they need to be, because I've been where they are before. So it's even more passionate for me to, be able to help them get through their courses and graduate. So it's just mindset, as far as the transition.
It's interesting.
That's awesome.
The long-term goals are totally different, but
Yes.
that you have to sort of flip that around in your mind when you flip over in academia. It seems like that's interesting.
I appreciate the industry. Like, I still try to go to conferences as much as I can, attend workshops, to stay abreast of, any industry changes, because, HIPAA changes every day. There's
Everything.
there's something that changes every day, and we have to stay abreast of that as an educator to be able to relay that information to our students, because we want to make sure we're teaching them the most up-to-date information. And it's good to have examples, real life examples to share with them, especially when an article comes out, if that relates to something that we're learning in that particular week, I'm posting it as an announcement, hey, take a look at this, how does this relate to weekly learning outcomes that we're discussing today. So
that builds the students up to be able to go out and understand, hey, when you get out in the field, it's a continual learning process, because like you say, things are changing.
Yeah, you want them to connect real world experiences with what they're learning in the textbook.
Yeah, kudos on getting some practical into your theory there, because that's a lot of times there's misalignment, right? Not in healthcare or HIM specifically, but across the board, there's often some malalignment with practical versus theory, right? So what we're learning in school, okay, these things are good, and you need to learn the foundation and the premise of these things, especially if it's related to regulations, right? You got to understand who's approving or disapproving of your actions as a professional, and who could put you in an orange jumpsuit or not, right? You got to understand that part.
Yeah.
But the practicality of employing what you're learning in theory into practice, into operations, that's hard. Shannon, I appreciate the wholesomeness with which you approach the outcomes discussion of what's important to your students, right? So it's important to your university that your educational outcomes are good, and that your students find employment, gainful employment after. But the point is your outcomes. And I was thinking as you were talking about that, I love this conversation. You are incredibly inspiring. One thing that I was thinking as you were talking about that is, man, I bet providers wish they could focus on outcomes instead of the clinical administrative burden of clicks or, who they have to, what thing do they have to do to meet X criteria to get a revenue generated or to get credit for this quality thing. I think providers probably would love to be able to focus on outcomes the way that you just so wholesomely talked about it. I mean, that's anything to add about that?
They do, and I think that's where we come into play. We should be able to take that task from them, as health information administrators, and focus on that while they focus on the clinical side. I think we're wanting more providers to take more of an administrative / clinical role, which a lot of them are not wanting to do because, a lot of them are saying, well, this is not what I went to medical school for. But that's where we come in as administrators, being able to understand those aspects of healthcare organizations and health administration, and being able to manage that piece and manage that data so that they can provide the outcomes that these patients need. I was reading an article on the HEMA, came out sometime last summer, about how health information professionals are managing data, or they're going to play a role in capturing data for the social determinants of health so that providers can provide better care to those patients that may be experiencing those types of health disparities for, whichever social determinant. So again, that's where we come in. That's where HIM researchers come in, to provide that knowledge to health administrators so that they can take on that administrative role from the providers.
That's awesome. That's incredible because that is the goal, right? We are there for support. So I get on my kick sometimes about, we're not viewed as a revenue producing center, health information management professionals. We're not, that medical records department's not a revenue producing center, but look at the level of support across the entire organization, and cost avoidance and risk mitigation for sure. But there's so much support. But this kind of leads us into thinking about, how does your doctoral degree or your terminal degree benefit you as a health information professional?
Yeah. So I think I've said this a lot during our conversation, but I really want to expand the knowledge that's out there for health information preventative, getting tongue twisted there, health information professionals to manage the data that's out there. And that was actually one thing. So I'm kind of going to answer this twofold because I know you mentioned my dissertation, so it kind of just folds into it a little bit. So as I was completing my lit review on my dissertation was actually on organizational factors for duplicate records in an ER environment, a fast track ER environment. And I found a lot of literature on duplicate records, but it was old. It was like 2013 and beyond. There were a couple newer pieces, but not a lot. There wasn't a lot out there. So for the foundation, I had to use a lot of older literature. And when you think about that, I mean, what does that say about our profession? There's not a lot of research going on about some of the trends that are impacting health information management. And so I want to close that gap. I know it's going to take more than just me, but I want to be part of that to close that gap, to be able to offer new knowledge to HIM professionals so that we can manage the data, so we can protect it, and do all the things that HIM professionals are expected to do in healthcare organizations to ensure its integrity, its confidentiality, and all that. I want to be able to conduct new research and share it with our industry, in addition to, teaching and mentoring our upcoming HIM professionals. So just seeing that when I was conducting my own lit review, I was like, there's not a lot of stuff out here about, trends that are impacting HIM. And I've seen that in some additional things that I've, looked at on AHIMA's website. They're trying to encourage more HIM professionals to obtain doctorates and do research just so we can add to our knowledge base.
That's really good.
That is good. I do have a follow-up question about that. What are some of the subject areas that you would like to be able to go into the body of knowledge and see that health information professionals had done research on relative to the field?
Yeah, so definitely data integrity. I mean, that's one of my major research interests with duplicate records, patient identity management, and also me and Dr. Shannon Hauser. She's a professor at University of Alabama. She was one of my professors during my HIM program, and she's been a lifelong mentor to me ever since I graduated out the program. So we've collaborated on many articles, and we've been trying to increase the gap of duplicate records, how they're created, what solutions organizations are using, what informatics solutions organizations are using to mitigate the risk of duplicate records. I worked in release of information for many years, so I somewhat have some top of interest in that. But another thing that has sparked my interest is health literacy. Working in release of information, you'll be surprised at the number of people that do not understand HIPAA law. I personally experienced some patients and family members coming in trying to obtain records for their family members, automatically assuming that we just don't want to give them the records, but they don't understand the law that restricts us from doing that if you don't have the proper documentation. Some good patient education would help solidify that. And I would love to be able to get out there and educate more individuals on the law and even their rights to their medical records. A lot of people don't even know the rights that you have as medical records. A lot of people don't even know that you can go to a HIM department and request to see where your information has been disclosed to. A lot of people don't know that. So I've become really interested with that lately. So definitely that, and data integrity. And, as we all know, informatics is advancing. HIM now is taking over. So, anything, that will help us become better at what we do would be great to research.
That's fantastic. Well, this has been a very inspiring story. It's been a fun conversation, Dr. Harris, and you mentioned another Dr. Shannon, so that's going to make this even more confusing because now we need her on. So
there's three of us now.
So thank you for joining us today on HIPcast, and thank you for being an inspiration to the students that are out there, the second degree folks, the second career folks, because it is, life is a struggle sometimes. Life is a challenge sometimes, but we can persevere. And the network that you build with HIM professionals across the country is absolutely key to that. And that's what we hope to do also with HIPcast, is to bring that education to others. So we do appreciate you for being here.
Great. Yes, thank you so much. This was a great opportunity. Really enjoyed working with you guys. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, Shannon Swafford, I'll say, so I can be clear on it. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And until next time.
I'll see you next time, buddy.